everyone. Welcome to ProThoughts. Welcome to this interactive webinar on agility. Just a quick check. If you're able to hear me, just drop a note in the Q&A. I believe chat would be disabled for participants, but you can let me know on Q&A if you can hear me, okay? Very good. So, warm welcome to all of you. This webinar is about agility, which is a very common topic, almost hackneyed. But why would I want to talk to you about agility? So, right at the outset, what I felt is a lot of people talk about agile. A lot of people talk about the need to be agile, but very few actually understand what it means to be agile. So that's the reason why this topic is important. The other reason is that in the context of Project Management Institute and the PMP examination, in fact, any project management examination now, they always say that agility is an important part of project management. And especially for those who don't come from a software or IT background, that tends to be a little bit of an unnerving experience. So that's the reason for picking this topic. So what I'm going to cover for you today with your help is what is agility, where it should be used, and where it should not be, the evolution and the thought process, how it should be, how you should think about it, some myths, and then we'll have an open forum and so on. As always, I welcome any questions, comments from anyone. Q&A is the primary mode of communication. And so let's keep that happening all the time. If you don't ask me questions, I will ask you questions. So that's the rule we will follow. So just, I don't want to spend elaborate time on doing elaborate introduction. Just want to let you know this is my name. If you want to connect, you can connect on LinkedIn. It's a very strange name, so you won't find too many of us online. So let's begin. What is agility? There's just two words. Any method of developing products which is both incremental and iterative is agile. Incremental means delivering outcomes little by little. Why that is important is that you can unlock value quickly. Anybody would like to share an example of incremental delivery? Any example comes to your mind? As you are thinking of this, and I know it takes a while to type inside chat, it's much easier to speak, and I have control over the mic, so I can speak. I want to share an example with you. It is an non-IT example. I'm going to deliberately pick non-IT examples. So there was a project we did about 2015, year 2015. The project outcome desired outcome was to build a multi-speciality hospital of 500 bed capacity. This is the project. Now, as you can imagine, it's a very difficult project, very challenging project. Hospital is a very complex undertaking, and we had an empty plot of land. We had to build everything and enable everything and put on all the facilities, inpatients and outpatients and ERs, and there's lots of utilities behind the scenes. So we thought this was going to be a 2-year project. Ended up being a 4-year project, more like 4 years. Let's fast forward to year 2020, when I volunteer for a non-government organization, voluntary organization. At that time, the government requested us to build an 800 bed COVID hospital. And they said, how soon can you deliver this? Those of you who were around in 2020, like most of you would know, that it was a very challenging time. Pandemic, lockdowns, this and that. So it was very difficult. And there was a big emergency, global emergency. Hospitals were falling short, patients were coming in. And so this project, we, from the time the idea came up in a meeting with Pune Municipal Corporation, the health department, till the time we started seeing patients, was done in 6 weeks. I'm not claiming that we did something great. I'm just saying it was done in 6 weeks. Now, therein perhaps lies a lesson for all of us in all projects, whether it is software or whether it is anything else. How can we shrink a project which should take a long time, years, in a matter of weeks? How is it possible? What do you think made it possible? I'm saying 6 weeks is great. It was not that really that great. Apparently, they did it in 2 weeks in China, probably did it even sooner in other parts of the world, everywhere. But what makes it possible is my question. You're talking about incremental delivery, and that's thinking, thought process. That's what we should always have. How can I deliver something now, not years later? Now, what makes it possible? Any ideas, thoughts? Phase wise delivery, says Madhuri. That's fantastic. Innovation, technology. There wasn't really great innovation there. We did in this project, honestly speaking. But yes, phase wise delivery. There is a buzzword in the agile community. It's called MVP. Does anybody know the expansion for MVP? I'm a sports buff, so for me, it means most valuable player. Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Chennai Super Kings, Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls. I don't know, there may be others. But in the context of agile, it means minimally viable product. Of course, it's not a new concept. I didn't invent it, so it's very well known. But what does it mean? See, this is an emergency. We have patients coming in with a positive test report. We need to do something for them. So we have to think minimal. What's the bare minimum I can do for them today? Today. So first of all, we have to think this is a COVID hospital only. We are not going to do maternity procedures, knee replacements, cardio. Oh, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to see COVID patients. That's it. That limits the scope. It doesn't have to be a permanent facility. This is an emergency. We are doing it for a pandemic. It may last for months. It may last for years. As it turned out, it lasted for 2 years. But we didn't know that at that time. So what was done? We commandeered an open ground, a college ground. Colleges anyway were shut down. And we built temporary prefabricated structures, plywood, not construction of any sort. So that could be done in days. We didn't even have doctors, very interesting. We didn't even have doctors in the first week, no full-time doctors. They were all either very busy or they were just scared to come out and look at patients. It was very sad. But we did have volunteers. And what they had was a cheat sheet. It said, when a patient comes in with a positive report, ask them these questions. Take their temperature, take their oxygen concentration, this and that. By and large, 80-90% of the patients, we just had to isolate them, look after them, and they would be fine after a week or so. You just keep testing, and then when you get a negative report, you discharge them. Some patients do require some medication, some looking after, and sometimes even some supplemental oxygen using cylinders. Other patients, they are so hard, doing very badly, you don't even look at them, you send them to a proper hospital. This was our script on the first week, and it was done entirely by volunteers, no doctors even. Imagine. But we were starting to see patients. That's help, isn't it? And during the couple of years, actually 6 months, and then we stopped, and again 6 months we had to revive it. The second wave, we did get better at this. And that's where the second I comes in our definition of agility, which is iterative. What does iterative mean? Iterative means you learn from experience, improvise, make changes as necessary. So we quickly discovered this was peak of summer, and we were in prefabricated structures, barely a proper roof on your head. It was very hot. So we had to make arrangements with table fans to at least have the patient some comfort. We discovered the food that we got from different places was terrible. We had to change suppliers. We discovered we did need at least visiting doctors, visit 2-3 times a day. So we organized. Where we didn't get doctors, we improvised. We got medical students, civil defense people, army doctors. We did what we could. Eventually, we even got some makeshift ventilators, and it became much better. 6 months later, we were much better equipped. But if we had waited for all of this to be in place before we roll anything out, it wouldn't have worked, right? It was an emergency. As we all know, it was an emergency. But in business, it doesn't have to be an emergency. Or put it another way, it is always an emergency. Whatever you say, when do you want this? Oh, it was required yesterday, but it'd be good if you can give me next week. And this is how it works nowadays. Everybody's in a hurry as though there is no tomorrow. So these two things, if you are doing these two things, deliver bit by bit and learning from experience, you're already using Agile. There is no rocket science to this. Is there any question, comment, thought from anyone? Please put in the Q&A. Keep doing that. You don't have to wait till the end, the bitter end. But in a nutshell, that is what agility is. It doesn't have to be software, it doesn't have to be IT, it doesn't have to be anything. If you are thinking in this way, then you are already agile. Very good. So the question is, so there's a question, this is the practice always. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is any patent anybody has on the word agile. So if you are doing iterative and incremental, then you are already agile. So whatever you are doing, you do these two things, you are okay. So where should this approach be used? And where should it not be used? What do you think? If you talk about project management, there is a lot of tension, not always healthy tension, between the traditionalists and the agilists. Agilists believe that agile is gift from God. It has to be used everywhere, and traditional methods are useless, worthless. Throw them out. Traditionalists believe that agile is very cowboy style programming, good for Mickey Mouse software development projects, but not good for my projects. My projects are bigger. So there's always this tension. I am torn in between. I'm a traditionalist. I did my PMP 2003. I'm very old school in my thinking, but I do appreciate agility too. So I don't understand why they have to be always at loggerheads with each other. But what's your idea? Where should it be used? Where should it not be used? As a leader, you all are leaders. That's why you are here in this session. your managers in some sort. So you have to advise your organization, your team, where we should use agile, what element of agility we should emphasize. So there are a couple of diagrams I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about evaluating a project's characteristics and defining what method we should be following. There's some responses. I use agile in the planning phase. And if you have more work to be done, then agile can be suggested. Fair enough, fair points. Let's see what PMI says about this. PMI, Project Management Institute, they have a publication. It's called the Agile Practice Guide. Anybody can get it. If you're a member, you can download it today if you want. This picture is there in the Agile Practice Guide. What does this say? There are two things. There is how frequently you deliver the product and how much change there is. Right? How frequently you deliver and how much change there is. If you don't have a lot of change and you deliver only once at the end, and it's better to use what PMI calls predictive methods. Software people call it waterfall. Sometimes we use the word traditional, whatever word you choose to use, it's up to you. Predictive. Example, if I'm building a bridge over a river, connecting this point and this point, is there any point in delivering incrementally? Oh, I've finished the first two pillars of the bridge and I've completed half of the span. Can you start using it? No, I would like to go to the other side if I don't mind. I can't use half a bridge, can I? Cannot be done. I cannot be learning from experience. Oh, let me start building and then I'll figure out how to do it. Sorry, you have to know how to build. Bridge building is not a new science. You don't just figure out. You have to have a proper design. Then only you get approval to start building even. So if you know what you are doing in advance and you will deliver only once, there are not going to be changes. Can't tolerate too many changes. Then it's a predictive model. Sometimes there aren't a lot of changes. We can't make changes, but we can still deliver incrementally. Can you think of any example of this? Incremental delivery. Not changes, but incremental delivery. Many infrastructure projects can be delivered this way, not bridges, but perhaps if I'm building a highway, a 100-kilometer highway, I should be thinking sections. Can I complete one section and roll it out for traffic? Another section, roll it out for traffic. If I'm building a gas pipeline from the port into the interiors, I should be able to roll out sections. Why make everybody wait till I've completed all the 1,000 kilometers? Customers should be able to see value quickly. Incremental delivery. I cannot change the alignment at my women, but I can deliver little by little. Sometimes you find a situation where it's iterative but not incremental. There's a lot of change, but I deliver only once. I think Varadarajan has written an example, medicine development. Healthcare industry is a fantastic example of iterative. There's a lot of experimentation. Fabulous example going back to COVID time frame. Funny how I'm thinking only of COVID examples today. COVID vaccine development. There's a lot of experimentation. Should we use mRNA approach? Should we use a deactivated virus, dead virus? Should it be a nasal vaccine? Should it be an injection? There are lots of choices. So we have to experiment to figure out the most efficient, effective way. But can I roll out experimental products? Would you like to try my vaccine? It's not tested yet, but would you like to try it? No. I can't even sell. It's not allowed until the US FDA approves it and ICMR approves it over here in India. There's a regulation. So I cannot roll out. I will roll out only when it is ready. But before that, there's a lot of change because we need to experiment. That's iterative. And as we already discussed, agile is simply combination of iterative and incremental, which means we deliver often and we learn from the experience, both of them. So when you talk about continuum of life cycles, there can be scenarios where you have to be totally planned, predictive, whereas adaptive is either of the eyes or both of the eyes. All of this is adaptive. This, and all of this is adaptive space. Inter in incremental, it's a mouthful. Incremental, iterative, or agile. All of them are adaptive life cycles. You have to apply them judiciously, right? Another picture also from the same publication, the Agile Practice Guide, is called the Stacy Complexity Model, which says similar idea. How sure are you about the requirements, and how sure you are about technology? If I know what to do, and if I know how to do it, then it's a simple scenario. I mean, I can do it with simple predictive linear approach, start to finish. If I know what to do and how to do, then why bother about experimenting? If I don't know what to do, and if I don't know how to do it, both of them very uncertain, then it's chaos. It's like a go no go decision. You got to go back to your sponsors and ask them, do you really want to do this? But there is this large white space in the middle where there is moderate uncertainty about requirements and technology, where perhaps agile can play a role, or adaptive approaches can play a role. So here's a small exercise. Now I want to pick your brain a little. I'm going to show you 4 example projects, and you have to tell me what approach you will use for them, right? So your choices are 4: predictive, or incremental, or iterative, or agile. You have to keep this picture in mind. Let me bring back the picture one more time before I go further. This picture. Predictive is low frequency of delivery, low degree of change. Incremental, high frequency of delivery, low degree of change. Iterative, high degree of change, low frequency of delivery, and agile is high on both. So in that context, you got these 4 choices. You got to tell me which is most suitable for this scenario. Take a minute to read this description. If you have a question, you can ask me, but at the end, you have to tell me which life cycle model best suits this project. Any thoughts? Would you like to use predictive approach, incremental, iterative, or agile for this? So let's think about this. Do we think there will be a lot of change in this project? Degree of change? Low. Because I mean, we know we have bought this company as ProThoughts. We want to rebrand it. What's the change in this? I mean, I know how to do it. I know what to do as well. There's no change here. Do we want to have multiple rollouts? That first, let me rebrand this website, then I'll rebrand this course and this other content, and then their YouTube channel. No, I want consistent branding across. So I would roll out everything at once. So low frequency of delivery and low degree of change. To me, if I know what to do, how to do, this is probably better to do in a predictive fashion. If I know what to do, how to do, and there is no need to experiment, no need to deliver incrementally. Why bother? Just because agile is there, don't apply like peanut butter everywhere. You have to be judicious. At least that's my opinion. Of course, you are welcome to disagree. But next question for you. This is another project, different project. And again, my question remains the same. For this project, would you use predictive, iterative, incremental, or agile approach? So again, let's see this project. We think there is a opportunity to go mobile. A lot of people use these devices to access everything these days. I mean, they are always lost in their devices, most of them, especially the younger lot. I don't belong to the younger lot, but anyway. So what is the scenario here? Is there a lot of change? Perhaps. Uh, we may need to experiment. See, this word experimentation may be needed. So it is perhaps iterative. We can have a gradual rollout. Most popular content goes first and the rest can follow later. So there's opportunity to phase out the deliverables. So it is both iterative and incremental as well. Because both elements are present in this, I would say this is agile, which means both incremental and iterative. This is how I would look at it. All right. Next project. Think about this one. The story sounds familiar. We are losing talent. It seems to be the story everywhere. These days, I spend most of my time in a voluntary organization. Even there, we are seeing a huge amount of attrition, people leaving. What to do? I mean, I know what to do, but it just takes a while to get all the approvals in place. So, to me, because I know what to do, there is no surprise, there is no experimentation or iteration, but I need to roll out quickly. Whatever I get approval for the easy things, at least let's do it quickly. Let's show some intent to our people so they feel now my organization is doing something for me. So, what I would think on this one, this is probably more incremental. It's not so much iterative, but it's incremental because timing is important. I cannot make people wait. Within 6 months, 1 year, we are going to fix this problem. Sorry, I don't have that much time. I have 3 offers in hand. Show me what you're going to do today. That's the question we need to answer. And you can probably see where we are going with this. One more question and then I'll get off this horse. Last project I want you to comment. Which life cycle model? So back to Pro Thoughts now. We want to diversify different segment. Marketing team has come in. We want to do a big launch, but before we do the big launch and spend a ton of money on it, we want to try out. Does this really work? To the college student, school student, do they even look at? If we publish a newspaper ad, they may not even look at it. My children, they don't read newspapers. Both of them teenagers. So I have to figure out, isn't it? Because there is figuring out. The operative word is figure out, experiment. There you are. So it is iterative. Perhaps not incremental because I'll roll out once I've figured it out. Till that time, I'm going to keep on doing small test launches, but final launch will be only when everything is ready. So this is more iterative according to me. Does it make sense, guys? I mean, I know this is a bit of an unfair exercise. I'm throwing few lines at you, few line description of a project, and I'm expecting you to tell me a life cycle model, which is actually quite a profound choice to make. But the point of this exercise is only to emphasize that while agility is great, it may not be equally applicable everywhere. Every project is unique, it is different. You have to know what element of agility to apply, if at all, on a project. Don't just apply it uniformly everywhere. Okay, very good. So moving on, then what is the agile thought process? This is where I think the rubber hits the road. Yes, we understand agility, it's fantastic, and we really want agility in our company. Everybody wants these days. And again, it's not an IT only thing. I mean, I do this agile coaching a lot. And I will tell you, more than 50% of my current engagements are non-IT. I have had um, oil and gas companies saying they want to be more agile. I have had energy companies, they want to be more agile. Mining companies, they want to be more agile. Pharmaceutical companies, they want to be more agile. So it is everywhere. If you think it's only an IT thing, might be a might be the case 10 years ago, but today every industry wants to be agile, but not everybody understands what it takes to be agile. This can easily be a whole semester program, a multi-year rollout. But if you understand the essence, then I'm sure you can figure out what works in your company, in your industry, and so on. So, what is the thought process? What I want to do, I want to change scenario a little bit. You are probably already tired of listening to me. At least I am tired of listening to my own voice. So I'm going to instead show you a video, a conversation with the CEO of a very large global bank. This is a banking business we are talking about. And banks have been some of the most interesting case studies of application of agility. So we'll watch that conversation about 5 minutes and then you and I will comment on it together. Right. So give me a minute. I'm going to launch a video. video coming up now.
Welcome again to Blue Note, Shane. Thanks very much for speaking with us. Along with the interim profit result today, you announced a new management approach at ANZ, scaled agile. What does it actually encompass?
Well, it's a whole new management philosophy for how to run the company. And this is a tried and tested technique that's used across all sorts of industries today. It came out of the tech industry, but it's really evolved into much more than that. And we're going to adopt it at ANZ across Australia in early 2018. It's an exciting and different way of thinking about work. So it moves away from a very hierarchical structure and based on a bunch of silos where work is handed from one department to another, to a very much a team-based approach to getting things done. So this is about self-directed teams who have total clarity about what they're doing. It's about speed to market. It's about getting things out, responding to customers really quickly, and it's about empowering our people to do absolutely the very best with the resources at hand. So it's quite a radical shift in many ways, but as I said, it's tried and tested, and we already use it at ANZ in parts, in small pockets of the bank. We really want to scale it up across the place.
Is that where the scaled part comes into it? Because I think people will have heard of agile in different smaller projects.
Yeah, the agile idea actually came out of the tech industry, as I mentioned, and it was really around the development engineers, about a way for them to get product out, to get software written. And over time, some of the companies, most notably people like Spotify, really scaled it up and said, look, this isn't just about getting software to market, this is about how we run the company, about how we think, about how we work together, about how we collaborate, about how we get things to the customer quickly. It's about testing and learning and continuous improvement. So that's the difference. Agile is very much a kind of a technique for getting a project. Scaled Agile is really doing it as a way to run a business.
And you talk about there's been scale projects, agile projects done in ANZ already. Has there been a scaled agile project, something a bit bigger than that?
Yes, I mean, we do about 1 in 5 of the projects we run today. We already run using this agile methodology. Probably the one that's been the most famous inside and the one that customers probably have experienced. The outcome is Apple Pay. So we were able to go from the idea of Apple Pay, the concept, to actually having something in market that people could use in about 10 weeks. I mean, that's a remarkable achievement in a bank anyway. And so that's exactly the sort of thing that we want to be able to do all the time, constantly improving and getting things out. And the other thing I would say on that one, it's also a terrific way of bringing in partners. We've said we see the future as much more about partnering with best-in-class providers, whether those are wealth product providers or technology companies or marketing companies. And this is a way to bring those people into these agile teams. And so Apple Pay was a terrific example.
And like Apple Pay obviously went very well. It is a sort of tech project in a way. So how would it operate in a sort of non-tech project way in a bank?
So it's a way of thinking, and essentially it can be in any team, as long as that team have clarity about what they're trying to achieve. They can sit down and say, hey, we as a team are going to sit and decide what's important, and we've got to have impact. So we look at the data, we understand our resources, we each bring our specialist skills, and then we together decide how we're going to organise ourselves to achieve that objective, and then just kind of get on with it. So there's a lot of technique in it in terms about identifying bottlenecks and how do we get the resourcing right and how we work together as a team. So it's just a way of working in a team-based way.
And is there a time frame for implementation, and how do you measure success?
So we've obviously spent time talking to other companies around the world who've implemented this, and as a rule of thumb, they say it takes about 6 to 7 months of just, intense planning, thinking this all through, and then you can launch. So that's the approach we're taking. We're essentially kicking it off today. So we've got about 6 or 7 months work ahead of us to plan this out, and we would look to launch it in Australia in early 2018.
And how do you measure success? What are you looking for to measure
Well,
success?
really it comes from a couple of things, and they're all kind of intertwined. One is just employee engagement. I mean, one of the things that comes through in any large hierarchical organisation is people want more empowerment. They feel they want to be able to get things done. And so this is a way of unlocking that discretionary effort of our people and really making them closer to customers and doing things. So employee engagement is a really critical measure of success. Second is just speed to market. Having customer impacting improvements in the market all the time. So not something you do once a year, but something that's coming out every 6 to 10 weeks. And so that speed to market is something that we can measure. And actually there's a productivity benefit which really brings those two together. Doing more with less. So having more impact in the market at a lower cost. And so those are the three things we would look to measure.
And does it mean doing more with less employees as well?
Possibly. That's not the reason we do it. It's really about saying we've got these resources, how can we unlock them to achieve more? So it's less about having people in kind of sometimes bureaucratic roles or project management roles or middle management, and unlocking those people and making them more productive by putting them into work and customer focused teams that are actually delivering outcomes for customers.
And obviously it will impact Blue Notes as well.
It will.
Thanks very much again for speaking with Blue Note, Shane.
Thank you.
All right. Any thoughts from anyone? What did you deduce from this conversation? One is he did hold out a threat almost to all of us. He said, we don't want people to be in bureaucratic roles and middle management and project management. I don't know whether that describes your role already. So he even implied that those people don't do any work. They're just bureaucratic. But anyway, what is really interesting about this is the amount of clarity that is right at the top. The big boss knows about Agile, what agility means, and the value it brings to your business. Will your leadership have the same amount of clarity? I mean, you don't have to answer this question to me, but you think about it. If they don't have, then you need to educate them sometimes. That's what are we trying to achieve? It's just that people hear these buzzwords. Oh, Agile, I've heard Agile does this and Agile does that, and they read these book titles. They don't even read the book. There is a book with the title, believe it or not. If you have not heard about this, you should even read this book. Scrum, the art of getting twice the work in half the time. This is the title of a book. Scrum is one of the methods, agile methods, and it's written by a gentleman called Jeff Sutherland, who's one of the founders of Scrum. Imagine if your CEO reads this title and then demands that I want twice the work in half the time. What are you going to do? I will start updating my resume on monster.com and indeed.com and start looking somewhere else, because it's not going to happen. It's not a magic wand. But yes, we have to figure out how we work and how we survive in this new world order of more agility, which is already here. Not that I'm imagining it is here. It is already there. It's an elephant in the room. Some myths that people still have sometimes, amount of prevalence of that myth may vary from organization to organization. People still believe it's only an IT thing. Oh, mine is a engineering company. We are a manufacturing company. It doesn't work for us. Sorry, it works everywhere. Everywhere. I already gave you examples of companies where we have done this. Oil and gas upstream. How can I improve the yield of my 25-year-old oil wells? By using agile approaches. Mining companies, can I go from idea to commercialization, concept to commercialization in months rather than years? How can I do that? They are already thinking about this. It's not an IT thing anymore. Some people are worried because they feel agile means you throw away all the documentation and all the process. You don't have to throw it away. Pharmaceutical, for example, is probably the most heavily regulated industries in the world, for good reason. You and I take medicines when we are sick, and God forbid if they are developed without following due process. You need documentation, at least 10,000 pages of documentation for one pharma product. Those of you who worked in the industry know this. So it doesn't mean throw it away. It just means you develop the documentation as you are developing the product. You evolve the documentation as you evolve the product. Don't do it as an afterthought at the end. That is waterfall. Some people say, no, 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 Agile is great, but you see, my team doesn't understand this. I've got all useless people. Team is not mature enough to do this. Hello, if you are working with an immature team, you are in deep trouble anyway. Forget about Agile for a minute. Think about how much trouble you are in. In fact, if you had an immature team, would you prefer that they work on one product, one project for months, years, and then realize that you are in a deep trouble? Or would you like to see a demo every 2 weeks, weeks, not months, that I know what is going on? The more immature your team, more you need Agile, not less. And then this is an objection that comes up all the time. You know what, Sandeep? Our product is so complex. Minimum 6 months it takes for me to build all the components and then assemble it. It's very complex engineering. How can you say we deliver in 2 weeks? I don't have the answer to this. You guys are the domain experts. I am not. I don't know how to make deliveries in 2 weeks. In pharma industry, in engineering industry, in mining industry, you tell me. But remember, the journey of a million steps starts with the first one. You have to break up the project into smaller deliverables. Whether that is deployed in production directly, available for customers to consume or not is your decision. But you have to figure out a way to break up the scope and deliver incrementally, iteratively, if you want to be agile. So that's all I have for this session. I'm going to pause for any thoughts, reflections, comments, question, anything. As you are thinking about this, I'm going to launch a poll. Give me a minute. Yeah. So you can feel free to answer the poll before you leave. But I'm quite happy to stay a few minutes longer if anybody have any closing remarks, thoughts, questions. Thank you, Jay Prasad. Thank you, Rudy. Good luck with your PMP. So those of you who want to use the session for claiming PDUs for your existing certification, a PDU code was just shared on chat. Have a look at that and use it to claim your PDUs for this session. Anyway, final call, any question, comment from anyone? All right, then if not, only request from me on behalf of ProThoughts, do submit your response to the poll before you leave. And I wish you all the best with whatever comes next in your career. And hopefully our paths will cross again in the future sometime. Bye from me for now.